So in this video we're going to be going through the GCSE Level 1 mix sheet by going through how to work out the answers to the questions asked. For access to the worksheet, feel free to click on the link in the description or by typing in the link on screen. So the first question looks at general arithmetic. So for question 1, all we're doing is just simple adding. So if we go for the column method and just making sure that your presentation is on point, making sure your numbers are all directly nice neat columns. So 8 plus 8 is 16, with 1 to carry. 7 plus 7 plus 1 is 15, and 1 to carry, so we get an answer of 556. For question B, again we're doing a little bit more of addition, so we've got 8, 7, 3, 2 plus 1, 4, 1, 9, and we're adding. So 9 plus 2 is 11, 3 plus 1 plus 1 is 5, 4 plus 7 is 11, and 1 plus 8 plus 1 is 10, giving us an answer of 10,151. For C, we're doing takeaway this time, so 8, 7, 6, 5, 2, 5. So the key thing to remember when we're doing division is making sure that your top number is always bigger. If it isn't, we need to borrow one. So in this case, we don't need to borrow any. So 6 take away 5 is 1, 7 take away 2 is 5, and 8 take away 5 is 3, giving us a final answer of 351. And for D, so here we're talking about money. So when you're dealing with money, always make sure the decimal point is in the right place. And again, when you're subtracting, it really is important that your numbers are in nice, neat columns. So here, what we need to do is borrow 1 from the 5, because obviously 0 is smaller than 5. So that turns into a 4, that becomes 1. So we've got 10 take away 5, which is 5, 4 take away 2, which is 2, 10 take away 3, which is 6, and we've got a 1. So our final answer there is £16.25. Now for question 2, what we need to do, now it might not be clear because the units are underneath, so what we need to do is we need to use these units to answer the question. So all I'm going to do is just put little bubbles, little circles around them. Well, I won't really call them circles. And what we need to do for each of the sort of types of things that we need to find a unit for, we need to choose one of these 7 units. So for question 2, A, which of these best units is used to measure how much water we're going to drink? Well, that'll be litres. For B, the length of a car out of these, I would say, would be metres. For C, the length of a pill would be millimetres. Now, I'm sure you probably get away with writing down the abbreviation, but we'll just write down the full words, just practice our spelling. For D, we've got the weight of a boy, so looking at this, this would be kilograms. For E, what have we got? The distance from home to school, that would be kilometres. F, the weight of a car would be in tonnes. And the weight of a chocolate bar would be done in grams. Or you could have kilograms, it depends on how big the chocolate bar is. So I'll put in brackets kilograms because you probably could get away with that, but it's going to be a very, very big bar of chocolate. So most likely. Now for question 3, what this question is asking is saying that I roll a die 28 times and here are the results. So what I need to do is convert this into a tally or a frequency table. Now to do this correctly, one thing I'll do is have some form of system. So the first thing we need to do is make sure that we're making sure that we've included all 26 numbers. And when you've got numbers in this kind of type of format, it can be very confusing and very easy to make a mistake or miss a number out. So one thing I'd recommend that you do is tally as you're going along. So in terms of the 3s, so for example, if I look at the first row first, so I've got 7 numbers in the first row, so I've got a 3, and as I'm going along, I'm just going to cross this off. And this is what you kind of be expected to do in the exam. And so I've got 6, I've got 5. So every time I'm making a dash, I'm crossing off the number and I've got 2 4s. Then what I might do, if I'm lucky enough to have another set of colours, is I might change. So one thing is count, have you got 7 dashes? Yes, I have. So you can then ready move on to the next one. So I've got 3, 6, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then count again, see if I've counted 7. So then I've got 6, 5, 5, 2, and then 1, 1, 3, which I've done all of those. And then for the last one, I've got 4, I've got 3, I've got a 1, I've got a 4, I've got 2 3s, and I've got another 1. So if I tally all those together, I've got 7, 4, 6, 5, 3, 3. And then it's just worth just checking to make sure that they all add up to 28. So if I do 4 plus 7 plus 6 plus 5 plus 3 plus 3, it should add up to 28, in which it does. Now when it comes to drawing your bar chart for question B, let's just write B here. So A has been done because I've completed the table. So for B, and if I just scan this in, so from this, and I've just made it a little bit smaller and just put it, there's a couple of key facts that we need to do, make sure that we've got when we are drawing our bar chart. So from this, it does need to be neat, it needs to be drawn with a ruler. Now the key thing with regards to where the marks are done is that the axes need to be labelled. So axes labelled, and that includes this one here as well. You can see that I've got equal spaces between each of the numbers on the frequency, which again is really important. So equally spaced scale. I've got equal gaps between each of the bars. So all got a width of 1 square, you could say. So equal spaced gaps. And also that the widths of the bar are all the same. So the widths of each of these bars are the same. Are equal. And obviously what you also need to make sure is that the frequencies are correct. So I've got 7, 4, 6, 5, 3, 3, and that's done. And that should give you full marks for completing your bar chart. Now for C, all it's case doing how many rows were prime numbers. So prime numbers from 1 to 6 are 2, 3 and 5. So what I need to do is add up 4 plus 6 plus 3. So for part C, it's going to be 4 plus 6 plus 3, which is 13 times. Now for question 4, now this is just working with basic percentages. So to work out 50%, I just need to divide 84 by 2, in which I get £42. For B, 25%, well if 50% is equal to 30, then 25% is going to be half that, which is 15 meters. For C, 75%, well 50% of 80 is 40, 25% is therefore 20, so 75% is going to be those two numbers added together, which is 60 grams. For D, 10% of 1,800 is going to be 180 litres, and for E, 5%, well 10% of 200 is going to be 20, so 5% is going to be half of that, which is therefore going to be £10. So now moving on to question 5, which is looking at converting into fractions. Now to convert decimals into fractions, now these ones you should already be able to know, but again if you're not too sure, so when we've got 0.5, in terms of our denominator, we start off by always writing 1, and then we count how many numbers have we got after the decimal point. Now in this number we've only got one number after the decimal point, so it becomes 10. And then for the top number, all we need to do is write down this number ignoring the decimal point. So we're going to have 0.5, which is just 5. So we've got 5/10, which simplifies to be a half. Now again, some of you may already know it's a half, in which it's fine to go straight to the answer. So for B, we've got 0.25. So again, set on my fraction, I've got a 1. I've got two numbers after the decimal point, so I've got 2 zeros. And if I write this number without the decimal point, I'm going to get 25, in which I can simplify that fraction to give me a quarter. For C, I've got 0.7, so that's going to be 7 over 10. For D, I've got 0.2, so that's going to be 2 over 10, which simplifies to give me a fifth. And for E, So when we're looking at percentages, so for this, all you want to do is write down the percentage as the numerator and then divide it by 100 always. And then what you need to then do is simplify the fraction, which this simplifies to give you 6/10. For F, you've got 20%, so that's going to be 20 over 100, in which you can simplify that down to give you a fifth. For G, 5%, well, that's going to be 5 over 100, which simplifies to give you 1/20th. And H, 35% rather, and that's going to be 35 over 100, which gives you 7 over 20 when you simplify it. For question 6, now with equivalent fractions, there's a massive range of answers you can have for this. So for equivalent fractions, all you need to do is times both the numerator and the denominator, the top and the bottom number, by the same number. So you can either multiply them both by 2, you can times them by 5, you can times them by 10, you can times them by 100. There's an infinite number of possible answers you can have here. Again, we're just going to keep it simple by timesing both the numbers by 2 as an equivalent fraction. So we're going to go for this one. And again, obviously, the question is a bit vague. There's an ocean of answers you could possibly have. So I'm just going to go for the simplest one. So 2/3 becomes 4/6. Now again, make sure you're not simplifying your answers because we're asked to otherwise we'll just go back to the original question. So always just try and keep it simple. Next one, we've got 3/7, so that's going to be 6 over 14. For C, we've got 2/5, so that becomes 4/10. For D, we've got, sorry, I've missed that one, so that's D. C is 3/4, so again, that's going to be 6/8. For E, we've got 4 over 9, so that's going to be 8 over 18. Then, if I just get rid of all of this, so for 7, we need to write down the factors. So for question 7, 12, so all we want to do, factors are numbers that go into this particular number without leaving a remainder. So factors of 12 are going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. Now if you're not too sure, if you fear I'm going to struggle with these, then all you need to do is just try and think of two numbers that multiply to give you 12. So you can have 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4, and lo and behold, you've got your factors. For question B, we've got 20, so that's going to be 1, 2, 4, 5, 10, and 20. For C, we've got 30, so here we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 5, and we're going to have 6, we're going to have 10, we're going to have 15 and 30. For D, 24, well that's going to be virtually exactly the same as 12, just with one extra number, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 12 and 24. For E, and we've got 8, sorry. And for question E, we've got 50. So here we're going to have 1, 2, 5. So another way of doing this is 1 times 50, 2 times 25, 5 times 5, and 5 times 10. And that's pretty much it. And there's your factors. For question 8, we want to try and find the median. So in the median, we've got to count. So we've got 7 numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, to find the median, we need to put the numbers in order and then find the middle number. So it's going to be this one here. So starting off, we've got 1. We've got 2 2s. We've got 3. We've got a 5. Sorry, 4, a 5, and a 6. So our median is 3. And for question 9, we want to find the mode. Now the mode is the most common, so which number appears the most. So out of these, we've got 1, 2, 3 5s, and we've got 3 9s. So your mode is going to be 5 and 9. So So moving on to the next set of questions. So with question 10, it's a case of writing fractions. So question 10a. So count how many parts. So to work this out as a fraction, you're writing how many parts of the shape is shaded. So it's 3, and then you're writing it over how many parts there are altogether. So that's going to be 8. For B, it's 1 out of 4, and for C, it's going to be 2 out of 5. For question 11, it's a case of stating the type of triangles. So A is an equilateral triangle. For B, it's a right angle triangle. Now the key thing to look out for here is looking at the number of lines that are marked on the triangle. So if a triangle has got a line, it basically means that it's the same as any other line that's also got a line dashed to it. So with question A, you can see I've got 3 dashed lines, which basically means that all 3 of those lines are going to be equal length. Now question B also, you might think looks like an equilateral triangle, an isosceles triangle, because you might think these two look very, very similar, but because there was no markings on the original question, it's just simply going to be a right angle triangle. For question C, that's a scalene triangle. For D, that's an isosceles triangle. And for E, it could, if you tilt your head over, it could look like these two sides are equal, but because there's no markings on the question, it's simply going to be a scalene triangle. Now question 12 is going to be very difficult for me to do this on the screen, so what I'd recommend is drawing those lines with a ruler, 4 centimeters, 3.6 centimeters and 2.7 as accurately as you can, and maybe get someone to check it for you. With regards to question 13, again this is going to be slightly difficult depending on how you've printed or working with this particular question. If you're doing it on screen, it's going to be very difficult for you to match up. The length of the line is going to change depending on what your zoom is going to be, but if you have printed off this worksheet onto A4, then you're probably looking at question 13 being, so if printed onto A4, then I would say question A, you're probably looking roughly at about 4.2 centimeters, give or take, and I would say any answer between 4 and 4.4 will be absolutely fine. For B, I would say that it's roughly going to be about 1.8 centimeters, so any answer between 1.6 and 2 centimeters will be absolutely fine. And for C, I would say an answer of around 4.2 again. Now usually when it comes to exams, they'll always give you a margin of error, so any answer between 4 and 4.4 centimeters is going to be absolutely fine. For D, now this is where again it gets a little bit more complicated doing this on the computer. So I would say that top line you're probably looking at around about 5.4. So if I just label as I go along, so I'm saying that that's about 5.4. The diagonal line is probably going to be around about 3.2. And the base of the shape is looking at about 3.6, and I won't say the height of that shape, but the last remaining side I would say is going to be around about 2.5. And that was 3.6. So if we now just add up those numbers, so 4 plus 2 is 6, plus 6 is 1.2, so it's 1.7, so 6, 9, 12, 14, it's giving us the final answer of 14.7 centimetres. For question 14, well let's first of all start off by getting rid of all of this, so we've got a bit more space. Now for question 14, you can do this in a series of different ways. So again, you could do either, so for question A, we've got 4, 5, 2 times 7. So you could either go through this way, so 7 times 2 is 14, 5 times 7 is 35, plus 1 is 36, and 4 times 7 is 28, plus 3 is 31, giving us an answer of 3164. Alternately, you could do the grid method, in which you're multiplying by 7, so you get 28 with 2 zeros, 35 with 1 0, and 14, and simply add those numbers up and you still come up to the same answer. So whichever method you choose, it's going to be absolutely fine. So the answers then for B you should have is 1 2 4 5. For C, 7 7 8 times 8 should give you an answer of 6 2 2 4. And for D, 1 9 2 4 times 5 should give you an answer of 9620. Moving on to the next set of questions. So for question 16, these are parts of a circle. So for question 16, A is the distance all the way across going from one end to another, so that's what we call the diameter. For B, the distance from the centre to the edge is what we call the radius, and the perimeter of a circle is more commonly known as the circumference. For 17, naming the following angles, well, A is what we call is an obtuse angle, B is a reflex angle, C is an acute angle, and D is a right angle. And for question 18, so which ones are parallel? Now parallel lines are lines where the distance between the lines are always the same. So parallel lines are going to be A and B. Now perpendicular means which two lines meet at a 90-degree angle. Well, there's actually two possible answers you can have here. So you can either have A and D, or you could have B and D. So any of those two answers, or you could write both, it's entirely up to you. But if you had to give one option, either of those two, whereas if a question asked you to do both, then you would have to give both. Moving on to the next set of questions. So naming the following shapes. So for question 19, now if it's a four-side shape, you could be a little bit of a smarty pants and just say it's quadrilateral. But if you wanted to name the actual quadrilaterals, then you'd have to give the proper names. So in terms of questions A to E, they're all quadrilateral. So technically, would you lose any marks if you wrote quadrilateral? Probably not. It's probably the wording of the question. That's probably pretty poor. But I would probably say that they're more likely asking for the correct name. So for A, that is a parallelogram. B is a rhombus, and spelling is important before you ask. C is a rectangle. D is a trapezium. E is a kite, and F is a hexagon. For question 20, so all this is the case of doing is state the value of the underlined digit. So for A, the underlined digit is going to be 40. Now these questions are a little bit different because sometimes it could ask for the place value, so that represents tens. For B, we're looking at 4,000. So in other words, 1,000. If it's asking for place value. C is 9, and that's a unit. D is 100, well, no hundreds. E is 10,000. So it represents 30,000, shall I say rather. And that is that. For question 21, it's just a case of naming the 3D shapes. So all of these are nets. Now sometimes you kind of guess based on what you can actually see. So question A, if it was drawn correctly and not isn't freehand like it's on the diagram, that would represent a cube. B represents a cylinder. C is a triangular prism. D is a triangular based pyramid. And E is a cuboid. And then moving on to the next set of questions. So question 22 reverts to rounding. So question 22. So we want to round. So if I just write down this number again. So round this number to nearest 100. Well, that's going to be, so looking at this, we can see that the 100 is the 3. Look at the number next to it. Is it bigger than 4? Yes. So this number to nearest 100 is going to be 876 400. For B, nearest 1000, so that's looking at here. So this time we're going to look at this number here. It's 876352. So this represents 1000. Look at the number next to it. Is it bigger than 4? No. So the number stays the same and all the other numbers turn to zeros. And to the nearest 10,000, or 10,000 is this digit here. I look at the number next to it. Is the 6 bigger than 4? Yes. So it's going to add 1 to the circled number. So it's 880000. For question 23, so this is looking at doing numeracy arithmetic with negative numbers. So again, all you're doing here is finding out if there's 2 symbols in the middle. That's when you need to decide whether it turns into a plus or a minus, not based on the numbers that you see. So for example here, although I've got a plus and a minus, just because they're different doesn't mean that I take away. Basically, I start at 5 and I'm going to add 7 to it, which gives me an answer of positive 2. For B, I've got 6 plus minus 5. Now, as you can see here, I have got 2 symbols in the middle. As they're different, they turn to a negative. So it's 6 take away 5, which is 1. For C, I've got minus 10, minus 6. So again, no 2 symbols in the middle. So I'm starting at minus 10 and I'm taking away another 6. Gives me a final answer of minus 16. For D, it's 13 take away 20. So again, I've only got 1 symbol in the middle, so I'm starting at 13 and taking away 20, and I'll end up at minus 7. And for E, I've got 4 minus 6. So again, I've got 2 symbols in the middle here, so they are the same, so it turns to a plus. So it's 4 plus 6, which is 10. For question 24, before we do that, let's get rid of all of that. Now for question 24, it's about using this formula. Now it's pretty old, where now in mobile minutes are more inclusive, but going on this particular question, so here we've got a formula of that the bill is going to be equal to £10 plus 10p for every minute that we're going to be using. So it's 10p per minute is basically what we need to do. So for A, what I need to do is I need to work out what is 10 plus. Now we're using 400 minutes, so it'd be 10 plus. Now if I'm doing this on the calculator, I need to make sure that the units of both numbers are the same. So I wouldn't write this as 10p because it's going to make up your answers differently. You need to make sure that the units for the 10 and the units for this are the same. Now in this question it's already done for you, so it's nice and easy. So all we need to do is times that by 400, and if I work that out on my calculator, I've got 10 plus 0.1 times 400 gives me an answer of £50. For B, I'm going to do exactly the same, but this time all I'm going to do is swap the 400 this time for 9,000. And for C, it's going to be a case of changing it for 40,000. Let's go back to the pen. So here I've got 10 plus 10 pence times 9,000, which gives me £910. And then for C, it's going to be 10 plus 0.10 times 40,000, which gives me an answer of £4,010, not the kind of mobile phone bill you want at the end of a month. For Question 25, what we need to do is write these in ascending order. Now ascending means smallest to biggest. Now when it comes to any form of ordering, the first thing I would recommend that you do is count how many numbers you've got. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And so I'd start off by doing 10 dashes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through these numbers slowly, and I'm going to just kind of put a mark through which numbers I have done. So I'm going to start off with the lowest number, which is minus 13. The next smallest is minus 6. Then it's going to be minus 5. Then it's going to be minus 3. Then it's going to be 0. Then it's going to be 3. Then it's going to be 4. Then it's going to be 5. And then the last two numbers are 7 and 10. And then moving on to the last. So for question 26, all we're doing here is continuing in the sequence, so it's worth just noting what the pattern is. So in question A, the pattern is increasing by 4. So 11 plus 4 is 15, and 15 plus 4 is 19. So 15 and 19 is your final answer. For B, we are going up by 8. So 40 plus 8 is 48, and 48 plus 8 is 56. For C, you can see here that we are dividing each number by 2. So the next number is 10 divided by 2 is 5, and 5 divided by 2 is 2.5 or 2.5. And for D, one thing that you should note in this one is that each of the numbers are square numbers. So 1 times 1, 2 times 2, 1 times 1, 2 times 2, 3 times 3, 4 times 4. So the next number is going to be 5 times 5, which is 25, and 6 times 6, which is 36. For question 27, the question says which class has more children? So with class A, each circle is 3, is going to 3, so it's 3 times, and if we count how many circles we've got, we have 9 circles, so it'd be 3 times 9, which is 27. And for class B, each triangle is worth 2, so we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, and 21. So here class A has got more children. And finally for question 28, so this is just looking at lines of symmetry. So A, which is a rectangle, so this has got 2 lines of symmetry. So the diagonals aren't symmetry lines, although they seem to quite a common mistake. For B, now if this was a full circle, it would have an infinite number of lines of symmetry, but as it's a semicircle, it only has 1. And for the star, if it's, I'm guessing as it's properly symmetrical, then we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines of symmetry. And that concludes this particular worksheet. So if you have any problems at all, feel free to drop me an email, and which I'll be more than happy to go through any issues you may have been experiencing.